Okay, so welcome everybody, bienvenidos. Thank you so much for being here. This is the opening workshop of the SWS Summer 2022 meeting. We are here, we're here in Los Angeles, California in the United States. And we're really glad to be back in person again. Our first back in person meeting was in New Mexico in March, the end of March, beginning of April. And this is the continuation of that meeting. And we are really glad to have been able to add this emergency programming based on the reversal of Roe versus Wade. So we added workshops and a plenary on Friday. We know a lot of people are still traveling and getting into LA. So not a lot of us are here, but gladly we're able to record this and live stream it, and also later will be posted on our YouTube channel, on the SWS YouTube channel. So welcome everybody. This session is being interpreted to Spanish. This is one of the initiatives that we've had initiated. This, is it working?
1 second, sorry. Okay.
Continue. Okay, so going back to interpretation. So this session is being interpreted to Spanish. And this is one of the initiatives that we started this year to be able to reach a much broader audience. The task force on language accessibility is assessing different languages that we'll need to make sure that we interpret it to. But the assessment was that we would start by interpreting always into Spanish, and the second language would be one that will come from the global partners that we usually invite to our winter meetings and sometimes to a summer meeting. So in this case, we're going to be interpreting into Spanish. So if you are listening in through Zoom, you need to select the little planet that's below your Zoom screen and choose the channel that you want to listen to. So if you're a Spanish speaker, choose Spanish channel. Okay, and there you should be able to listen to our great interpreters that we're very grateful for their contribution to this effort on language justice. If you're here in the room and you need to understand or listen to Spanish, you can log into the Zoom meeting on your phones and listening with your headphones. And we do have headphones available if you don't have your own. So with that, I'm going to just remind you of the name of this workshop is Spreading the Marea Verde, the Green Tide Across Borders, a Latin Plus Feminist Collective Action. And this workshop has been sponsored by a Latin Plus Feminist Sociology Collective and is led by Erika Busse-Cárdenas to my right, Christina, Chica over there, Beatriz, Padilla, and I'm Roberta, Villalón. I'm also the president of SWS. And with that, I'm going to leave it to Beatriz, who's going to introduce the goals and ideas behind this workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bienvenida. I'm going to be speaking in English. So when we just met with the last time we met with the Latin Plus Feminist Collective, we were devastated by the overturn of the situation with abortion. So we were thinking, what is that we could do? And usually, as you know, ideas, practices tend to circulate more from the global north to the global south. And we thought this would be a perfect opportunity where we could, you know, all of us are from the global south, that we could share and in solidarity with what's going on in the United States with feminists in the global north and what's going on in the United States. So that's why we decided to organize this workshop. And okay, something is not working. So the arrows are not working. Okay, so in response to Dobbs versus Jackson and the overturning of Roe versus Wade, this is an emergency workshop that calls together interested participants to further 4 aims within a feminist, constructive, hemispheric, transnational perspective. So first, to reflect on the implication of these court decisions on reproductive justice in the Americas broadly. Second, to share Latin American activist strategies and practices for reproductive justice for them to be applied and adapted in the United States. So how is that we can adapt what has been done in the Global South or in Latin America? To expose participants to a specific set of creative strategies performed by Latin American feminists and practice those strategies as a group altogether. And finally, to perform this creative direct action strategically during the SWS meeting and the ASA conference as a consciousness raising effort among these professional organizations and the memberships. So this is our commitment. So who are we and why we're here? So I'm Beatriz Padilla, and I'm here because I want to do something to what's exactly going on in this moment in the United States. So I invite my partners and then all you to come here and just say who you are and why you're here. Or you can use the microphone.
I'm Erika Busse, and I'm here to do something collectively with you all for reproductive justice.
I'm Christina Chica, and as was already said, a lot of our knowledge flows and practices come from sometimes the North outward, and I think that there are several practices that have been inspiring coming out of Latin American feminists, and I think it matters for us to be able to talk more about those in this space, and also to perform them and have them be embodied practices in spaces that perhaps are not going to be talking about it. So that's why I'm here.
I'm Roberta Villalón, and I'm here to help in the green tide rising in the United States. And then we pass it to the floor, and please turn on your mic to be able to, for everybody to listen.
Veronica Montes, I'm here in solidarity with all women and feminist bodies, and I wanted to share the efforts to do something, to work together collectively, and also to learn and keep spreading and rising the green tide here in Estados Unidos.
I'm Ofra Lizer Whalen. Reproductive justice is super important to me. That's what I do. And I really would love to learn from my Latin American sisters because there's been some amazing movement all across Latin America.
Hello. Sorry, I don't speak English. Ok, perfect. Yo estoy aquí porque soy activista feminista y soy estudiante de doctorado e intento estudiar ahora a la reproducción social de las mujeres, sus cuerpos, y estas temáticas son muy relevantes, sobre todo ahora que hay retrocesos políticos y que nos tenemos que apoyar y más que nunca para que no avance la privatización y todos los antiderechos que pueden suceder de un momento a otro como sucedió aquí en Estados Unidos. Muchas gracias.
Hi, everyone. I'm here as executive officer to support the collective, and I'm really excited for this first plenary. So thanks so much, Roberta, for putting it together and for all of you here.
So I'm going to introduce the people who are online right now. Okay. Cory Marquez, Susan Lee from International Committee, retired professor from Boston University. Cory Marquez from the University of Arizona. Anyone else? I see other names. Oh. Mary Bernot, SWS Vice President, Marisela Martinez, Cola from Morehouse College,
And I think those are all of the ones who are participating online. Welcome, everyone.
So I'm taking my mask off to speak here. All right. So a little bit about the reversal of Roe versus Wade and the hemispheric implication. So we were thinking about what does this mean transnationally, correct? And we just came up with 3 starting points, but we would like also to hear from you some of the implications that you think it could have transnationally. So one of the points we're thinking about is that this shift to the right in the United States can feed right-wing politics in other parts of the world. And we know in Latin America, right-wing politics are strong and thriving. And even if there's still, and very welcome moments where the right wing is not really in power, it's not that they're disappearing, right? So it's really alarming to see that this right wing took hold in a place like the United States, which of course, right, as a imperial power is very influential on what can happen elsewhere. The second point that we came up with is how this conservative turn motivates activism for reproductive justice transnationally, right? So in opposition to this, clearly this can have a very motivating effect in terms of thinking about, well, if in the United States, like you were just saying, right, our colleague here from Chile, like if in the United States this overnight, it wasn't really overnight, but the feeling as if this just happened, right? Like after 50 years of having the right to abortion being a federal right, like it's not there anymore. So how easy could it be to turn things around in other parts? So with that alarm, activism that was already thriving in Latin America and in other parts of the world can become, more activated to make sure that this turn, doesn't happen there. And then the third point that we came up with is this idea of how funding restrictions, as we know, like nonprofit organizations worldwide really rely very much on funding that comes from the global north, right? So nonprofit organizations in the global south usually have ties, international ties financially, to be able to pursue their goals there. So in other times in history, this has restricted whenever there was, this kind of right-wing concerns, like there were restrictions to funding. So how will this affect funding to nonprofit organizations that are providing services? So while on the one hand, we have activism that doesn't really run on funding, we do have organizations that run on funding to provide services. So that's very concerning to us. So these were some of the ideas that we came up with, but we would like to open it to the floor to hear, and also to the virtual floor. And here Erika is monitoring input from our virtual participants. Like, what are the ways do you think that this turn to the right in the US can affect politics elsewhere? So we would like to open it to the floor. And again, if you're here, please use the mic to be able to, for our interpreters to listen to you and to our Zoom participants to listen to you. And for the online participants, please go ahead and include it on the chat so we can speak what you're saying.
Thank you. Thank you. I think those are some great points. This is Ofra Lizer Whalen. I think as I think kind of transnationally, I think about travel of actual bodies or medical goods. I think of like Las Libres in Mexico City. They've been sending pills like crazy to women, other bodied people all over the US. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that, like travel. And I also think about people that live along the border, right, of Mexico, who are now going to be traveling into Mexico to receive abortion. So I think there's definitely hemispheric implications of all the travel that's going to go on.
Thank you, Ofra. And I just wanted to add, somebody was adding something about how this also is happening with Canada, right? And like some of our colleagues from Canada were talking about this and how this is like they're going to start seeing some flow that way as well. Other people in the room or online, Erika? Nobody from the virtual world. Verónica.
I think it has to do with the Veronica Montes in the second point that you mentioned, Roberta, the conservative term motivates activism for reproductive justice transnationally. I think that's a very crucial moment. I think in terms, especially for, like feminist, transnational feminism, I think there's so much to support and learn from, as you mentioned, in terms of the, like what motivates, like to put together this panel. But I think there is a great opportunity to learn from, like years of activism that has happened in Latin America. And I think there are so many lessons and different aspects in which we can learn from what is going on in terms of, like the community, the feminist collectives, but also like people in different areas across Latin America. And I think there's so much to learn. And I think there's a very important, like, I don't know, a turning point probably for feminists also here in the United States, to get injected in terms of all the strategies and the energy and the momentum. I think that's an opportunity. I think that's what I see it, right? So to learn from, alone, like years of struggling and lucha que han tenido las feministas en Latinoamérica, I'm very excited to make those bridges, like stronger. I think that's a great opportunity and looking forward.
Sí.
Español,
Español, ¿verdad? Sobre el tercer punto, en Chile ha empezado con mucha fuerza una marea verde de hace ya un par de años, con la fuerza que tuvieron nuestras compañeras argentinas. Logramos consolidar el pañuelo verde como un emblema de lucha, y actualmente, por las decisiones que se tomaron en Estados Unidos, las organizaciones que se lograron instalar con mucha precariedad, ahora viendo el punto 3, que es la restricción de fondos de apoyo, ¿verdad? Va a ser mucho más difícil continuar. Actualmente estamos con un gobierno progresista que no tenemos temor de retrocesos. Sin embargo, si es que este gobierno no le va bien, va a venir uno de extrema derecha, y ahí sí que vamos a ver que el impacto va a ser real en torno a lo que se está discutiendo en Estados Unidos. Así que para al menos el continente, para la región, esta decisión impacta a pesar de que estamos en una transición progresista. Colombia, bueno, estamos muy atentos con lo que va a pasar en Brasil, ¿verdad? Y Chile, que estamos intentando que este gobierno le vaya bien, para que los derechos de las mujeres se mantengan y crezcan.
Thank you. Christina, you want to talk?
There you go. No, I mean, I just wanted to add, especially as someone who's been doing field work in Mexico for the last couple of years, right? That I've been pleasantly surprised and really proud of the courage that women in Mexico and around Latin America have, demonstrated in all of these movements. And as was already previously stated, right, by our colleague from Chile, what happens here matters for other efforts, because other efforts are easier to squash if powerful countries are not in the same page, right? So essentially, I just want to say that, regardless of our situation right now, I hope we can continue to take this moving forward, because they're the ones that inspire me. And I think they're the ones that they need to inspire all of us, because I think we as people from the States, right, have become increasingly apolitical, increasingly lacking courage, and increasingly less connected the more and more we're caught up with our own sort of expressions of global disasters, right? And I think it's time for us to finally move away from an exceptional way of thinking about things and actually think about what is the value that can be brought to this country, to other countries, with being in solidarity from efforts that are very powerful, very brave, and clearly effective, but will only be as effective as our collective solidarity allows it to be.
I just want,
Can you hear me?
No.
The only thing that I would like to add to what Patricia said, we have already gone through this process in Latin America, and many of the programs during the Reagan administration, during the Bush administration, have cut down all the support based on the decisions made in the US. So we can learn from that as well. So we have that knowledge that feminist organizations have accumulated to share how to face those possible backlashes. That's all.
Thank you. And the other thing I was thinking about while you were all talking is that also is this very special moment when this is happening, because with the global pandemic at the same time going on and a war going on, it's easily, right, misplaced what's happening, right? So it's interesting to see how much this is going to be part of what we're paying attention to, and how much both activism and resources are going to be put in terms of keep, fighting for reproductive justice when there are other matters that seem to be more urgent to take care of, right? So that's also another thing that I think it's important to keep in mind in terms of the moment when all of this is happening. Go ahead.
Susan Lee, and I think it goes along with this, the topic of today's workshop is that I'm interested in knowledge crossing borders from Latin America to reproductive activists in the US. What can US activists learn from the Green Tide? What strategies, tactics, etc. can we learn?
And Susan, this is what we're going to get into next. So perfect comment. So as we were talking about when we were describing what are the different goals we were having for this workshop, the other goals have to do with taking action, right? And what we can learn from what's been known as the Marea Verde, the green tide in Latin America, and how this is spilling over hemispherically and then transcontinentally and across the oceans, because we see also this symbol for reproductive justice being taken in Europe and in other parts of the world as well. So it's not just like within the Americas, but it's also beyond that. So we're going to now talk a little bit about what the Marea Verde is. And you're seeing us wearing these bandanas, and we're gonna get to that in a moment, but these bandanas is what made the Marea Verde, right? This green tide, because it's like masses of people in the street, women, but also other people, right? Like we'll talk about that also in a moment, wearing this green, right? So it was an idea about how we're flooding, right? Not just the streets, but the political consciousness, the cultural consciousness across borders in terms of what reproductive justice means and why we're here for. So let's just briefly touch on the background and what the Marea Verde is about. So before the Marea Verde started, right, we have history as usual, right? So feminist movements, reproductive rights movement, abortion, specifically abortion movement, collective health, violence against women, and feminicide movements in various Latin American countries preceded the Marea Verde, right? So the Marea Verde in a way is a consequence of years and years and years of mobilization across different causes that in a way intersected eventually with reproductive justice, or what is known as reproductive justice in the US, but it's mostly known as reproductive health or rights in Latin America. There was also a continental confluence of country-specific movements, specifically manifested in encuentros feministas or feminist meetings that were Latin American, organized in Latin America, where representatives, right, and activists from different countries got together to think about these issues, to strategize, and to kind of think really what was the best way to try to move forward their agendas and create concrete change in their countries. Because while now we are really enjoying a moment where there's very good gains related to reproductive justice and women's rights and things related to gender violence, this has not always been the case, right? The struggle is because the opposite was the rule, right? So it's important that we keep that that in mind. Now, specifically, the Marea Verde has been composed mostly by young people that has been driving the movement forward, but clearly with transgenerational alliances. And here, for example, the symbol of these bandanas that we're going to be distributing in a moment, right? Like, as you may know about the Madres of Plaza de Mayo, or the Mothers of Plaza de Mayo in Argentina, they would wear this on their heads, right? And they were white. They were white bandanas. So the idea of the bandana, changing the color was another matter, but the idea of the bandana came from these alliances that were transgenerational in terms of working together with people who had been politically active for years and years, but not specifically about reproductive justice, right? It was a matter of this political contentious culture that is very present in most Latin American countries, if not all, right? In different shapes, obviously, but there's a very active component to the culture in Latin America. So these transgenerational alliances happen with different groups of activists, including LGBTQ and other groups that were interested in basically issues related to justice altogether. Okay. Now, the political activism that was there present and driving these movements was not partisanism. And that's really important, because people that were mobilizing for these issues were not there because they were from one or the other political party, but they were there because they were really interested in the cause. And this kind of was cross-cutting, right? Different political alliances, which is kind of rare, because also political belonging is very strong and very fragmentary, right? And polarizing in Latin America. So this in a way is an exception in terms of having all of these alliances, like looking beyond what's your political party, but being there present and active to the cause of reproductive justice or abortion specifically. And then there was this transversality in the terms of the strategic way in which this was approached, which meant that it was not just, let's say, let's go to the street and protest, but it was really cross-cutting. It was a mobilization in the schools, mobilizations in the university, mobilizations in different communities and neighborhoods, alliances with different professional organizations and people providing services that made kind of this spread of the idea of the Marea Verde really went through, right? Different organizations and different institutions. Another characteristic of the Marea Verde is that there's very much sexual diversity among the groups, right? It's not just about women. It's not just a women's movement. There's cis heterosexual women, cis bisexual women, lesbian, non-binary people, transgender men, cross-dressers, and cis homosexual, etc. Right? Like you really have a cross of different gender identities and sexual identities present in the movement. The other characteristic that's important to keep in mind is that there's this focus on socioeconomic barriers and the links of abortion with gender violence, public health, access, sexual education, and social inequalities. So here we would call this intersectional approach. I don't know if necessarily that's how they're conceptualizing this in different parts of Latin America, but really the approach is multiple, right? It's overlapping, and clearly the axis of social class or socioeconomic status is very important, because it's systematically seen that people without resources or with less resources are harmed the most with the criminalization of abortion. And then it's all also conceptualized, I guess, in our view of sociologists, very sophisticated way of conceptualizing in terms of how all of this is connected with an heteropatriarchal state and economics and capitalism. And then the last couple of things, because before we get into the actions here, is how another characteristic of the Marea Verde was that multiple countries were involved. So Argentina, but this is spilled over, right, through Chile, Uruguay, where it was called Mano Naranja, an orange hand, so nothing to do with the green, but they have the same purpose and causes. Peru, Mexico, Colombia, etc. And the other characteristic that's important to keep in mind is that they build very strong alliances with other movements related to this idea that abortion is not just about abortion, right? It's about gender violence, it's about public health, etc. So one of the mass movements they were very linked to was the Ni Una Menos movement, which is the No One Less movement, that the color they used was purple, not green. But it's interesting when you see the protest of the Ni Una Menos that you have the green and the purple present, because there's that very visible way in which you can see that there's that alliance between that. And here on the side, you'll see that we are suggesting you to listen to a podcast that Latin Plus Feminist Collective made with authors Barbara Sutton and Naila Luz Vacareza, who have just edited a volume related specifically to the Marea Verde, and we suggest that you listen to that for further information. So with that, I'll pass it on to whom is next? To Christina, who's going to exactly. So who's going to talk about the 4 actions that we're going to take right now, make some change here.
Great, awesome. So as we had mentioned earlier, we have this bandana, right? We also have specific language that's written on this bandana so that it's clear. It's not just the color symbol, but it's supposed to start conversations. And one of the things that we want to encourage everyone to do, right? And hopefully we're able to give these to some other folks as well. Is to wear them throughout the conference, right? So regardless of what you're doing, it could be a conversational piece. And so what that ensures that we're able to do is that when we're in different panels, in different social settings, right, throughout the conference, throughout SWS and ASA, we're able to talk about it and make sure that it leaves this room, right? And also direct people towards this podcast on the Latin Plus, right, Feminist Collective website, as well as other resources. So the other thing that we're going to do is make some reproductive justice signs. We're hoping to have visual markers to be able to put in the conference room, right? So that folks who are coming in, both for the plenary on reproductive justice, right, and abortion, but also for other events are able to see them. And so hopefully we're able to keep that visually up the entire time. Great. And then you might have noticed that I was on my phone earlier, so I was tweeting, right? So we have a social media campaign. We want to be able to get this language out there, both in terms of the conference, but also in terms of using, right, hashtag Marea Verde, hashtag Green Tide, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. And then we have a performance that, you know, like I said, one of the things that has been really wonderful to see is the courage of women and the courage of Latin American women to be very vocal, right, very explicit about what's going on. And, you know, this performance that we're going to practice and come together to do is very explicit, right, and is very much in your face, and that's on purpose. Great. So I talked about the green bandana a little bit, but, you know, going a little bit more on, right, it's about legalizing abortion, making it free and safe procedure for all in Latin America, but also it's an unapologetic symbol, right? And so lately, since the overturning of Roe versus Wade, we've been talking a little bit more in the States about abortion right now, and, you know, sin vergüenza, right? Like without sort of any type of embarrassment, without any type of ifs, buts, and what have there be, right? And so here's a little bit more of like the direct language on it, right? The green tide is rising, reproductive justice now. We have our emblem, the Latinx or Latin Plus, however we want to, you know, move forward with that collective symbol on there, right? As well as SWS. And then we want to give thanks to Envision and Peril Solutions, right? And then make a note that the donations will support the National Latina Institute for Reproductive Health. And then the sign. So should I get through now, or should I talk a little bit more about what we want to do? Is that your part?
Yeah, but you can go ahead if you want.
Well, so in a moment, right afterwards, we're going to get into small groups, create some signs, right? We have a couple of different actions, right? And like I said earlier, we want to post them in different SWS rooms, in different places where ASA will be held, so that regardless of the size of our population right now, we're able to make a larger impact, and one that's specifically visual. Okay. And yeah, so here are some of the hashtags. I feel like, well, those, like, should we just leave them up so that people know? Or if you want, you can take a picture of this slide so you know how you should be hashtagging for the future. Obviously Twitter, however, if you have an Instagram, that could be great too. If you happen to be on other social media that you prefer, perhaps even LinkedIn. But yes, we encourage everyone to take a photo of this so that we know how to be talking about it today and beyond. And I'm going to do that myself. Okay. ¿Me pasé or what? Okay.
So
Oh,
now
okay.
we're gonna take some time to work on these. So for people in the room, we have some poster boards that we're gonna take some time to make some signs up. And the idea is that we would take this with us during the conference, right? So when we are attending an ASA plenary, we're gonna show up with the sign as also we're hoping that you're gonna wear these green bandanas all the time around at the ASA and the SWS meetings to be able to raise awareness and to hopefully have kind of conversation starters about what is this green thing that we're wearing around our necks or our wrists or hanging in our backs or whatever. So now we're gonna take the time to do some signs, or alternatively, if you're not so much into doing signs because you don't think that you're going to be able to show them anywhere, you can do more of the social media campaigning. And that's kind of like we're going to split the next few minutes, about 10 minutes or so, to create these signs or to do some of the social media campaigns. Okay, so we have, although everybody said they were not artistic enough, we have a bunch of amazing signs that we're going to display during the meeting. Okay, I don't know if that's catching it, but we're going to display them in the different rooms, and we're going to bring them along when we go to the different plenaries at ASA, as well as the plenaries of SWS. We're going to also post them in different rooms here that we're having here in the conference. And we're going to take pictures to be able to distribute them to our Latin Plus collective email list, but also probably through the SWS listserv to share with everybody so you can include them as part of your social media campaign. So now we're going to get moving, literally moving, because we're going to learn the choreography of our dear Chilean comrades, compañeras. This Chilean protests against gender violence became basically an anthem for social movements protesting the impunity of gender-based violence in all its manifestations and intersections in Latin America. So this song, to make sure and clear, it's not that we're confused. We know this song is not about abortion. However, this song has been used by these cross-sectional transversal movements that have been, been activated for different forms of rights related to women and rights related to gender identity, gender violence, etc. So we are going to start by watching our colleagues, not ourselves, but then we're gonna learn the lyrics. We are providing the translation to English so those who are not Spanish speakers can understand what this song is all about. And we're gonna try to learn the choreography, which is actually very simple, but so we can perform it. And this is the important part for those of you here present at the SWS banquet. And hopefully you can also do this maybe in your classroom. You can teach it to your students. You'll figure out what to do with this, okay? But to begin, we're going to actually watch the performance. So here we go. I'll shut up. Every time I see this, I start crying. It's like I can't help it. Okay, so we're gonna learn the lyrics and translate them. Why is it not letting me go forward? There you go. So for those here, we have this this around with the lyrics and the translation. And so I'm just gonna go through it so people can understand the English, right? So el patriarcado es un juez que nos juzga por nacer y nuestro castigo es la violencia que no ves. Patriarchy is a judge that judges us for being born, and our punishment is the violence that you don't see. Es feminicidio, impunidad para mi asesino, es la desaparición, es la violación. It's feminicide, impunity for my assassin, it's the disappearance, it's the violation. Y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo vestía. And it was not my fault, nor where I was, not what I wore. El violador eras tú, el violador eres tú. You were the rapist, you are the rapist. Son los pacos, los jueces, el Estado, el presidente. It's the policeman, the judges, the state, the president. El Estado opresor es un macho violador. The oppressive state is a rapist macho. El violador eras tú, el violador eres tú. You were the rapist, you are the rapist. Duerme tranquila, niña inocente, sin preocuparte del bandolero, que por tu sueño dulce y sonriente vela tu amante carabinero. Sleep tight, innocent girl, don't worry about the criminal. Your policeman lover is taking care of your sweet dreams. El violador eres tú, the rapist is you. So those are the lyrics of this anthem, as I said, like that. Really, it was this group of, as you saw, originally this happened in Chile. It was so powerful that literally every kind of movement related to women or gender took it on in Latin America, and they started performing it. So what we're gonna do here in the next few minutes is learn the choreography, basically, which is not too complicated as you saw, but it's very powerful, right? So I think the best way of doing this is actually replay the video, but I'm gonna pause it, right? So we can learn the movement with it. And then the idea is that we will perform this during the SLUS banquet. And hopefully from now until Sunday evening, we can teach it to a lot of people and we can practice it so we perform it well enough. But during the banquet, we're gonna play the video as well, right? So we're gonna be in the front doing it, but at the same time, we're gonna have the video behind us to show it to people. And we're going to distribute these lyrics with the translations for everybody to be aware of what's being said in that song, okay? So again, now here, I'm gonna go back to the slide with the video, and I'm going to, as I said, pause it to be able to learn what the movement is according in each part, okay? Sure.
Go ahead.
All right. So let's do it. And you'll have to stand up. Come on, Veronica, stand up. And people in the Zoom world also stand up, take a break from being sitting down across the screen, okay? Are you, can you send them the lyrics or the PowerPoint, maybe the link to a PowerPoint so they can follow it as well? All right, so let's, right. So let's see, let's play it. And we didn't bring un silbato, ¿cómo se dice silbato? A whistle, but I know it's well whistle here in our plenary. Let me.
El patriarcado es un juez
Okay.
que nos juzga por nacer y nuestro castigo es la violencia que no ves. El patriarcado es un juez que nos juzga por nacer y nuestro castigo es la violencia que ya ves. Es femicidio.
Ay, qué abajo.
Impunidad para mi asesino. Es la desaparición. Es la violación. Y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo vestía. Y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo vestía. Y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo vestía. Y la culpa no era mía, ni dónde estaba, ni cómo vestía. El violador eras tú. El violador eres tú. Son los pacos. Los jueces. El Estado. El presidente. El Estado opresor es un macho violador. El Estado opresor es un macho violador. El violador eres tú. El violador eres tú. Duerme tranquila, niña inocente, sin preocuparte del bandolero, que por tus sueños, dulce y sonriente, ven a tu amante carabinero. El violador eres tú. El violador eres tú. El violador eres tú. El violador eres tú.
Entonces, lo practicamos una vez más. You want to practice it one more time? Yeah, we go back. Yeah. Okay. I want to ask a question to our fellow Chilean. There's one part that I always get kind of confused with, which is the part about sleep tight, de duerme tranquila, niña inocente. Can you share with us, how do you understand that part? And get the mic so people can hear what you're saying. So my question, there's a section that says, duerme tranquila, niña inocente, sin preocuparte del bandolero, que por tu sueño dulce y sonriente vela a tu amante carabinero. Sleep tight, innocent girl, don't worry about the criminal. Your policeman lover is taking care of your sweet dreams. So I was asking our fellow Chilean comrade here, like, how does she interpret that part?
Esta parte es una estrofa de la canción de los carabineros. Entonces las tesis las toman como una sátira, de forma irónica, porque finalmente ellos también transgreden los derechos de las mujeres.
Thank you. Right. So while she was explaining, so the carabineros tell people what the carabineros are, because most people don't even know. Right. Pero la canción.
Es el himno de los carabineros.
Okay. So it's the actual anthem of the policeman. Okay. So there you go. So this is an ironic, right. El que está en la calle, ¿verdad? The carabineros are the ones who are like supposedly taking care of civil order or what?
Sí.
Yeah.
los que están en la calle. O sea, son las únicas fuerzas de orden que pueden estar armados en las calles.
Okay, so the interpreters are interpreting. I shouldn't be interpreting, so I don't know why I'm doing that. Thank you. So during the banquet, there's the award, giving out the awards. I can coordinate with Barrett the right time for us, because I'll share the statement that we did with SLUS about the Roe versus Wade, and then we'll bring this up, right? And depending al frente, yes. Okay. And so, and if we, depending on how time we have, we may be able to teach it too, right? We could have 1 or 2 rounds for teaching it, because we're sharing the lyrics, we're teaching it, and we could all perform it, right? So that's the idea. And then I'm gonna leave it up to people to do this in another setting in a more disruptive way. But at least we're going to do that, to perform it during the SLUS banquet. But again, I think we could probably try to do this in other moments. And as we're going to leave the materials to make signs in the hospitality suite throughout the meeting, we could probably maybe from 7 to 8 a.m. there's the coffee every morning. We could have, we could teach it, we could go over this again, and teach it to other people, so we're more, because we know there's other people that wanted to join us, but they're not here because they had already booked their tickets and everything. So yeah.
I have a table tomorrow and Sunday at 7 in the morning.
Wait, put you need to talk to the mic.
Okay.
If not, people can't hear you on the Zoom. On the Zoom.
Okay, I'm participating at these themed tables tomorrow and Sunday at 7 a.m. So I'll be talking about a project of mine, but I mentioned this to say that I will already be present in those spaces, and so if we want to redirect to do some of this work, that's totally fine with me too. Yeah. Alguien.
Good. Okay, so we're close to the end now. So I guess before we reach the final point where everybody will have the chance to share how they're feeling after this workshop, just maybe like a very short review of the few things that we discussed today, which was first, like to think about the implications that this reversal, this conservative turn in the US could have hemispherically, but at the same time to learn what is it that has been going on in the global South, specifically in Latin America, related to reproductive justice, and how can we apply their strategies here in the US. And we focus specifically on something very, I guess, practical, having to do with the symbolism of the green bandanas that we have available here in LA, and we're figuring out how to send it out to people as well. The money that we are collecting for this is gonna go first to cover the cost of producing this, but then mostly it's going to be really going to the National Latina Reproductive Justice Institute. And then the other thing that we did was making signs that are going to be just things that we can use here, but probably you can also do your own at home, put them up in your offices in your university, whatever it is. And the social media part that will be continuing, led by Christina. I'm giving her a job here. I don't know, but that's to teach people, because not everybody is so savvy in terms of what and how they can do and what they can be doing things. Right, so exactly, right, like how to change your profile picture in Twitter, in Instagram, in Facebook, in your email. We also thought about maybe putting, add it in your signature, your email signature. You can have a little link maybe to this song, for instance, so you can have, the hashtags of Marea Verde or Reproductive Justice Now, or whatever it is. And then the last thing we did was to learn about this song and to perform it. And it's a tool for you, because maybe you can organize this, as Erika was saying at the beginning, to do part like in your classrooms and with your students and your campuses. And also, of course, like if you're an activist, you're bringing this maybe, or maybe they're already doing it, but maybe telling them that we're also trying to bring it to these academic settings and professional organizations. So with that, we're gonna bring it to a close. And here, Okay, so for the bandanas, the registration table in here, like they have the bandanas and you can make your donation. And it's a suggested donation, meaning then you can give very, very little or nothing, or you could be a lot of money. Okay, so I'm gonna move forward this just to bring it to the end. And I think it's Beatriz who's gonna lead us to this. So thank you.
So just to close, and this is how we usually close some of the meetings, is we decide on a final word from each of us that expresses how you are feeling right after this workshop. So I'll start by saying how I feel, but also before we close, I think that right after everyone shared their feelings and work, we should take a picture with all the signs and everything, so we keep it for posterity. Okay, so after this workshop, I'm feeling empowered.
I feel that I have learned a lot. Thank you all. And Corey Marquez says that she feels empowered.
I feel energized, and I was feeling a little bit anxious about everything, and now I feel better because we're powerful, and that feels good.
I don't know. Excited. I don't know, like feeling in community. I'm feeling in communion, and that's nice. Yeah, and happy to do more things.
Lo diré en español. Me siento muy orgullosa de lo que generó la Marea Verde en Chile y que podamos que hayamos hecho este ejercicio acá de las tesis, que yo estando allá para mí era más natural y hacerlo acá es muy emocionante. Así que les agradezco mucho.
I feel solidarity and inspired to keep learning Spanish.
I think this is what it means to do transnational feminism. Me siento muy contenta porque extrañaba estar así como en colectivo y es la fuerza del colectivo que no se puede explicar solamente haciéndolo.
I feel connected. I feel engaged, informed, and just so grateful for this community. And I'm just feel blessed that we can all be together to experience all of this. And just, I'm really excited for Sunday evening. I think that's going to be spectacular. And I really do hope that our members take it back to their classrooms and communities.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. There is one more person. Mary says, so grateful for the work here and to have solidarity in directing energy, inspired. Thank you.
So if you're uploading a profile picture on Twitter, you'll notice that there's going to be a cutout. It's going to be circular. It's not going to be able to hold the whole picture, unfortunately. So you just decide where you want to do that. And the hope is that if someone is curious enough, they'll click on it. And once they click on the circular placeholder that is the picture, the whole entire picture will come out. So they'll be able to read the lettering.
To end, besides thanking those who are here and who are here virtually, I really hope that everybody else that is going to be listening in and watching this YouTube recording and the interpreted version in Spanish, that they join us in spirit and that they join the cause. And I also want to remind you that today we have the plenary devoted to discussing this issue. It's at what time, Barrett? I forget. It's at 6 p.m. It's also being live streamed, is also being interpreted. So please join us. And then, you know, like you'll also be able to watch it later on YouTube. And this is going to be, I hope, transformative and empowering beyond this setting and beyond borders. So thank you, everybody, and see you soon.